Sanae Takaichi is going to become Japan's first female prime minister. What's going to happen this morning is the Shiba government will resign en masse. This is pro forma. And then an extraordinary diet session will be held this afternoon. Customarily, it starts around 1 p.m. You go through a little bit of the motions and then they start voting shortly thereafter. As you mentioned, this is a minority government. LDP only has 196 seats in the very critical lower house, but they inked a deal with a small party called Ishin last night. At the last minute, they have 35 votes. So that means 231, too short shy of an outright majority. But there are reports now that they have won over a couple of independents. And what that means is that Sanae Takaichi might avoid a runoff vote, which expedites the process. It's not like without them, she's not going to be prime minister because the lower house prevails in the runoff, even if she doesn't win an outright majority. So I think for that, it's going to be one for the books. And I think people will be focusing on her cabinet lineup by the end of the night when she goes to the Imperial Palace, Martin, and the Emperor says you are now the prime minister. I think you'll see a cabinet lineup that might include some new faces. Martin?
Okay, and Kaori, I remember earlier this morning you were telling us that there was no apparent or obvious quid pro quo, as there usually is in Japanese politics, meaning Ishin is not asking for any cabinet seats, at least not yet. I think the take is they want to see whether there's any sort of stability before they jump in. The other thing is, Ishin is, we know, a right-leaning party, and there's a sense that they could constrain Takaichi's sort of spending tendencies, but it's not just Ishin within her own party. I think, and tell me if you agree or not, we should be watching names like Taro Aso and also the LDP Secretary General, Shunichi Suzuki. Both of them are fiscal hawks. They could check her as well.
Yeah, I don't think this changes the fact that the LDP is in disarray. And this is a big party, and it was clear that they couldn't hold it together. And Tado Aso, who is the kingmaker in the LDP now, he did not see it coming that Komeito, their longtime partner of 26 years, would bolt before this vote later on in Parliament. So I think that question still prevails. And that's the reason why they had to scramble together. It was basically like watching speed dating for the last week and finally get the rubber stamp from Ishin, which is really a small party centered in the western city of Osaka, and this is really their first time that they're going to have a prominent seat in national politics, and probably partly the reason that they're not looking for a cabinet post. But I think the fact that they did finally ink this deal, obviously the markets are sighing a bit of a relief, but as you pointed out, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to immediately see this kind of big blanket spending. But I think the immediate test for Sanae Takaichi will be the Trump visit. As the US president said in the clip you just heard there, he's coming next week. That's not a whole lot of time to prepare, right, Sherry?
Yeah, and President Trump's Asia tour is going to be testing a lot of leaders in the region as well.